is our time.
Let's start. Are there any public comments for items not on the agenda?
Yes, I have some public comment. Okay, let me see if I can put this up. I'm concerned that we have Measure BB, and that's the county sales tax measure, and now it includes the ability to fund the Emeryville. But I think the city needs to be a little bit more proactive about getting money. You know, the minute that measure passes, it goes into effect immediately. So if we are proactive about creating the criteria to fund shows, so that they understand how the Emeryville operates and how it will be funded, we can be first on the block when that money is available. Because nobody else is doing that right now. So we want to be first, we want to be proactive. You know, we can get $60 million out of this measure. That's what the property owners sought when we read the competing ballot measure. It worked. We got them to put $300 million in the fund, which can fund West Berkeley shuttle, and other shuttles, Broadway shuttle, this shuttle. You know, because otherwise that measure is not a good deal for Northern Alameda County. Most of those projects in Southern California, Southern County, that we've been contributing $3 million a year to that effort, get about $500,000 in return. If it's increased to a penny, we'll be giving $7 million a year. So trying to get, you know, $2 million back each year for our most valuable transportation resource is not unreasonable. Can be accomplished, so let's work toward that goal. Thank you.
Any other comment? I'm going to speak to that comment that you made, Ken. So you're aware, the TMA is very interested in finding any other source of money besides our own to augment our own to run the system. And this potential ballot measure that you've referenced is one if it passes. So we have stressed a strong interest. This group actually offered to split some costs of lobbying if the city were interested in doing that, and we met with them on that issue, and they actually said that they have a lobbyist engaged on retainer that works for them in a number of issues, but that they were prioritizing their lobbyist. It's one of the most important things they've asked them to focus on in the next handful of months. And so we met with the city and their lobbyist and have agreed to support their efforts in any way to try to, one, get the ballot measure passed, and two, as you say, try to figure out how this city could take advantage of it. Because it's the city that can take advantage of it. Then they can make those funds available to us. We can't really ask for them independently, if I'm not mistaken, right? That's what they said. So Ronnie's actually doing some work to give some future projections to the lobbyists and so we're going to keep monitoring the city and their lobbyists' efforts, because we'd love to see that. If that's passed, then there's a pot of money that we might be able to get. And I will say that we understand other cities are actively engaged in trying to position themselves, so it's not like there is a competition for monies that haven't even been voted for yet. And as an aside, I believe our company is going to hold a fundraiser to raise some money to support the ballot. And we may invite some of the other members if we do that. So I think we're going to do that, so I just mentioned that.
Well, it's important to know that I got commitments from those board members to fund the Emeryville, you know, because of the threat of what we did there. So that's important. So it's not just a tacit idea. It's almost guaranteed. I don't know whether we'll get all the money, but we're certainly going to get money. Thanks.
So Ken, I would recommend you make those thoughts if there's an appropriate time to the city, because they're really the active agent, and them remaining focused on it and having it a higher priority as opposed to a lower in a time where there are lots of priorities would be good. Okay, so approval of the minutes. Does anyone have any comments to the minutes, or can I see a motion to approve them?
I motion to approve.
And a second?
A second.
Okay, all in favor? Aye. Any opposed? Okay, those are approved. Now, before your report, we should probably all introduce ourselves again.
Yes.
So why don't you
I'll
start?
start. I'm Melinda Baker, used to be with Novartis, but now we are Grifols. Our part of Novartis was sold at the beginning of the year to Grifols, and we're now working as the Grifols Diagnostics business, still based on the same campus.
So Melinda was here for one meeting
One
as
meeting,
Novartis.
yeah.
Yes, I remember that.
Yeah.
And I'm Bob Cantor, I'm the president and CEO of the Emeryville Chamber of Commerce.
I'm Jeff Sears with Learning and Development.
I'm Rachel Richards with Federal Realty.
I'm Alice Rose with Madison Marquette Retail Services.
And I'm Ronnie Hattrap with Great Owen.
Trudy Presser with Great Owen.
Okay, great. So,
Fully.
the executive director's report.
Okay.
Thank you.
I'll go ahead and start. Good news, we implemented our service changes on June 30th. I'll remind some of you guys and the new members that we added a South Hollis route. Part of those changes included the addition of a South Hollis route to provide some redundancy of that portion of the line, which was proven to be overcrowded based on the transit analysis we did earlier this year. We also started service earlier on the POW route on the weekends, a little bit earlier, to provide transportation for some of the employees of the retail establishments along that line. And we eliminated we had a Hollis special, which we put in the peak service to service only peak direction. We found that to be ineffective, so we eliminated that line. So far, the changes are working out well. We have received a few complaints from riders on the south end of Hollis, wondering why there's a bunching up of buses. Gina, our operations manager, is trying to manage that. It's very hard to have a portion of a route being served and having to kind of fall in line with a larger route. So Gina's managing that and monitoring it. We'll continue to manage the changes or monitor the changes that we've made, and may make some tweaks or adjustments early next year once we've identified some of the problem areas. Trudy and I attended a meeting with BART. As some of you know, the BART frontage road, where our previous pickup spot at BART was under reconstruction as part of the BART redevelopment project. We met with BART. We had some immediate concerns given the growth of our service and our observations of growth of other shuttle services at that station. There are an abundance of hospital shuttles, and there's also a few other private shuttles that service that area. It's a very popular station. We were assigned an amount of space for our to be shared with other hospital shuttles, and we had some immediate concerns as to that space being too small. We've addressed those issues with BART at the meeting, and they've assigned us a shuttle coordinator who we're working with to monitor the situation. The new frontage road opens next month, or is reported to open next month, and we will be able to utilize the entire frontage road. Like I said, BART coordinator will monitor it, but at some point in time, the plan is to eliminate a portion of that for what they call kiss and ride, which is drop off. They'll monitor it, see if it would work, but I'm just putting that out there as something that we're working on with them and the concern that we might have at the station. And I'll turn it over to Trudy.
Any questions for Bonnie on that, or no? Okay. I will add that BART is extremely, concerned is the right word, but is very engaged with the Eco Line service and wants to support it as, trying as best they can to understand how important it is and how many riders we serve out of that station.
Are we getting any complaints?
We have not received complaints yet because it hasn't gone into effect yet. So our riders have been very patient and understanding of the current conditions where we are temporarily sharing space, but it's very cumbersome because we have to constantly pull up and the riders are kind of walking along and getting on the bus. But everyone understands it's temporary, so they're more understanding of it. When it becomes a permanent situation and we do have a problem, then I'll expect some complaints to come in. So.
Okay, on the issue of just funding in general, Jeff spoke to the outside funding that we are keeping our eyes on, and first and foremost is the ACTC upcoming ballot measures, so we are working on that. But of course, beyond that is the upcoming renewal effort that the city has underway. I actually am a little surprised Karen's not here today, because she normally is, and I've had inquiries into her letting me know that this was going to be on the agenda, of course. So all I can report is that, as far as I know, they're still targeting for spring of 2015 for a vote on that renewal, and they have, they're engaging the services of NBS to do the mentoring plan, and we are working with them, kind of oversighting, keeping them apprised, but unfortunately I don't have anything to report because I've been trying to get that information from them, so we'll stay on top of it and do everything we can to assist them with the facts of the agency and support any questions their team may have. But as part of that effort, we do foresee that, and there's been a lot of questions that come up with the renewal, is it in order to do amendment to our bylaws to support any future management plan that we put forward. So to that end, we're recommending that we do have a bylaws committee that exists already. It actually used to have Al on it before he left, but we have 3 members on it, which is Bob, who's here, Chris, and Francis. And so to the extent the board wants to go forward this way, we would have the work with the bylaws committee to analyze this issue and then bring it forth to the board.
So for the newer members, it's reasonably likely that the constituency of people who pay into our assessment district will change. We're not sure, I've got to go through the process, but it's possible that more residential owners may pay in. I'm hoping we won't radically change the boundaries of our district. All those things can be up for review, and so really we should think about if the character of people paying in changes, should we change our governance to reflect that? That's really the point of all that.
Yeah, thank you. So I asked today if that's the pleasure of the board, is to proceed through a committee, at least initially, and whether the existing committee members would like to still stay on it, as well as we can have up to 4 in the committee. If anybody else would like to join the committee, there's room for that.
So it's Francis and Bob?
Francis, Bob.
Francis,
Chris.
Bob, and Chris, and I'd have to reach out to those 2 to confirm they want to stay on it.
Yeah, I'd be happy, I've been on the bylaw committee forever, and if you can share it, if I don't care if I do or not, but I'll be happy to stay on it, it's no problem.
Okay, and then is there anybody else that would like to join? So we'll stick with those 3, and we'll let you know.
Well, you're going to find out if they want to stay on.
Exactly.
Well, you have to ask.
And so that we know there's at least one more spot, and there may be more than one more spot. So if anyone has thoughts about wanting to participate after here, you can just email Trudy. Yes.
Okay, well, at the end of 2016, this existing circumstance ends, and the new one has to be approved. So, putting yourself on committees that would continue past 2016 is not reasonable. You're going to have 3,500 paying residential condo owners who are not going to agree to a board that's corporately controlled with 7 assigned seats. That's just not reality. In addition, there are property owners, commercial property owners that also agree to that. I'm curious how the people putting together the PBID are making their decisions. Where's the community input on it? If you're going to have this many residents involved, they should have some input as to what's to be voted on. If you want it to succeed, because if it fails, you won't have any funding at all. So it's really important that appropriate outreach is done, that surveys are done, and that something's put together that can be approved.
So Ken, maybe you didn't understand what Trudy was reporting. The city's in charge of leading the process there, because they're the ones who can assert the power to approve an assessment district. They're just assembling the team of experts that they will use. We don't know that they've done that yet. Karen may be able to update us. So that process, I imagine, will happen once it gets launched. We are just prepared to support that effort and review things like governance if there are reasons to change it. So, Karen, is there any update on?
Yes. The September 2nd City Council agenda will include a contractor agreement with NBS to start the process of renewing the PBID. The scope of work, which I can forward to you, I just actually am waiting for their signature page, includes meetings with stakeholders, and stakeholders includes the existing TMA members, representatives such as the board, as well as other stakeholders. Similarly to the fact that, similarly as when kind of the decision to continue to see the PBID as the primary funding mechanism of the Emery grant was really done, again, through a bit of a collective process in which we had members of the TMA, we had members of the Emeryville Property Owners Association, we had residents, we had just kind of local business people, we had members, which are generally residents of the city's finance advisory committee, the Commission on Aging, and that was kind of multiple stakeholders, including quite a bit of residential involvement on determining that this was, continuing the PBID was the best way to fund the shuttle. And while there was lively discussion, I would say that a consensus emerged that for legal reasons as well as for fairness reasons, for lack of a better word, that residential properties would now be included, because right now only some are. So that's the basis by which we're going forward, but specifics related to what the assessments are for the various land uses, that's going to be an iterative discussion. It certainly has to be justified through the engineer's report. You know, you can't just decide to do something because you want. It has to have some nexus in terms of transportation, ridership generation, or something, right, to determine that. And then of course, and then of course that engineer's report will be the basis of the management plan, which then will be sent out to all the property owners that are being proposed to be assessed for their vote. So we're just at the very beginning of that. What I would say is that where we are to date is already because of a fairly broad discussion in the community. There has been some surveying already done. That was kind of done when we were looking at proposals for our city charter and our transfer tax. And usually when you do those kinds of polls, you take advantage to kind of throw some other questions in there, just so you can improve service and that kind of thing. And there there were some questions that supported the Emery grant was higher than that of fire and police. So there is clearly a system that people feel need to be retained and expanded. So I think for Mr. Bukowski's point, that clearly governance is going to be an issue more maybe than it was before, when it really was just the commercial property owners. And so that part of the management plan, we are expecting there be more of a process to put more of that in the plan that the property owners will be considering as part of the Prop 218, as before it simply said it was the bylaws of the TMA.
Karen, there was a question before you came in from the public about wondering whether the city is focused and making efforts to try to encourage the passing of the extra transit funds tax. Which measure is it, TT or
BB?
BB.
The county transportation plan, yeah.
Is the city trying to do that, and what steps are they taking? And I sort of responded on your behalf, but do you want to just take 2 minutes
I
for
know
that?
that we certainly have had, we have at least one council member that is actively part of the committee to pass it. And I don't remember yet, but I think the council may have adopted a resolution in support of it. If not, I wouldn't be surprised that that came up for council consideration. Certainly in the past, that has been something that the council has done.
Who would bring that to their
That
attention?
Usually those kinds of resolutions are sponsored by a member of the city council.
It's already approved.
Excuse me?
They
I
already
thought
approved.
no,
Okay.
I thought it had, was it last time or this time, my memory of this coming, my age is starting to go. But I thought they had, clearly that there's a limit to what a public agent can do. We can provide information, but we can't, so you can say, this is what this measure will do, but you can't say, and please vote for it. You can just give factual information. And so, I am sure that there'll be some information that's part of what the city does that will highlight this as something that's happening in the county. Emeryville does benefit from Measure BB, or will from Measure BB, in addition to the competitive funds that are likely to be available for shuttles and alternative transportation. Certain benefit regionally, with improvements to our transportation infrastructure. We're not an island. And also, we will benefit through the addition of the Ashby interchange. That will be a direct benefit. That is a multi-million-dollar project that we certainly don't have the funds, particularly after redevelopment, to do ourselves. So, it certainly is a measure that when the council moved to support it, there were not just indirect, but some direct benefits to the city.
Yeah, Vice Mayor Ruth Atkins tends to be the point person on this. She was actually on the Transportation Commission. She made a presentation to the Chamber's Board of Directors on our board meeting on August 5th. Alice was there, and our board voted unanimously to endorse the measure. So the Chamber of Commerce is supporting it. And if anybody wants any additional information, if you want to wait till this meeting is over, come next door to the office. I have some information I can provide you if you'd like it. And there's plenty online as well.
And I have a whole box of brochures and.
Well, so what I would appreciate, if you all would work with Karen in the city, I would appreciate an email that has just a handful of bullet points. What are the benefits that I and any other board member could share with their employees or tenants? If, we probably house a lot of people who vote in the county. And so if we had the opportunity to, I don't know if we use it, but I want to seriously consider sending an email saying, for those of you who vote here, these are the ways that it would benefit you.
It's also a job skill, quite frankly.
But it's very easy not to be an informed voter, right?
Yeah, we can absolutely.
But it needs to be
Short.
really digestible,
Right.
right?
Looking for, here's more
Something that,
information.
that also is not, it's also a job skill. I mean, it's going to provide a lot of construction jobs. And then, since it's new, a lot of maintenance jobs to maintain what's built. And so, I know that a lot of the building trades certainly are very supportive of this measure.
So the more it could be, for me, focused on the city, like there's opportunity for funding of the Emeryville round. I mean, it isn't sure, but there's an opportunity, the Ashby interchange. Those kind of things people can understand.
And Jeff, one other point too, you mentioned you have many people either in your buildings and just here who work in Emeryville who may commute in from other cities. It would also benefit them if they live in Alameda County in the city where they live. So for example, if they live in I'll pick a city, Hayward, and they commute into Emeryville every day to work, Hayward will get money from it too, so it'll benefit them where they live and where they work if they live and work in
Well, it'll
Alameda
benefit
County
the community as well.
Well, yeah, well, that's what I'm saying, and there's also some mega money for BART and AC, sort of regional money as well, so it's a good deal. Just get anybody.
Oh, I just wanted to say that when Tesla and Jill from ACTC did a presentation for the city council, one of the things that she emphasized is that the ACTC, because of their organizational thing working for, I'm not even sure how that works with the state or the county, that they can't actually lobby for it. They can come to meetings and they can present information, but they can't go out, they can't raise money to lobby for it. They can't send out things, I think, encouraging people to vote for it. Is that right, Karen?
You can send out information.
Other people can, but I thought that they said that AC Transit couldn't do it themselves.
That's correct.
So it's
So,
important.
for example, when it comes to the city's own measures, you can send out information, brochures to your residents. But you can't say, and vote for this. No, you have to be very careful that it's factual and not advocacy.
So it's important for other, for outsiders, or not outsiders, people who are not directly involved to raise money and encourage people to vote. That's all.
Okay, item, and that is per our administrative policies, in September, the board is to do an evaluation of your executive directors. Contract, that will be us. And traditionally, this board has done that vis-a-vis a committee and has done the evaluation. You don't have to do that, but you could convene a committee of the board to do that. And
Who was on the committee last year?
you,
Yeah, that's raising my hand. I was not.
yeah, I think Chris and Jeff and
Lisa?
Maybe it was Lisa.
yeah. And with the idea that the evaluation is conducted at the next session, and just a reminder that personal matters can be conducted in closed session. And then potentially that same process could be used if it's the desire of the board going forward to amend our contract for next year.
And
which ends
remind
in
me,
December.
did we sign you up for 2 years but we can cancel it?
You signed us up for this year with the option to renew for 2 more years upon mutually agreed to. So exercising that option would involve us preparing our scope and fee proposal to you for approval for an amendment before the end of the year. Probably would target the November timeframe.
Well, I think I was on the NB contract.
Oh, okay. So,
Well, I would like to recommend that we do it through a committee, that you all prepare a proposed scope of work for the next year, that committee be tasked with reviewing it for the past year, but also talking about next year, assuming they believe there is a next year. But I think doing that in one sitting, so they should have that scope of work from you when they sit. And so you'll need to figure out when you can do that. And so that's what I would like to recommend, that we effectively do it the way we did it prior, and then we're just gonna need to have a committee.
I think we're ready to go ahead and, so we can stick to our administrative policies and have this occur in September, if you can convene the committee now.
Does anyone have any objections to proceeding that way?
No objections.
That's the way to go.
And so does anyone want to volunteer for the committee?
I'll volunteer.
I will.
I would just note, we have a lot of people not here today, unfortunately, but I think would be.
We can send an email out.
Okay.
That's true.
If you don't mind, I understand, sure you want me to get this nailed down this
Okay.
meeting. We have a large number. I think Chris, as our vice chair, would be a good member. Chris Freeze from LB Realty, if he's amenable to do it, would be a good candidate. If he's not, I am available to do it, but I would like to defer since give someone else a chance.
We can send an email out stating that these 3 board members have expressed interest.
And you'll do that for the audit, or what, the governance?
Oh, we say our bylaw.
Bylaws.
Yeah.
We'll do it for both.
Okay, so that's what
The same
I
email.
That's fine.
Yeah.
I just
Okay.
thought, since we.
Does that sound okay to all the
That's
members
perfect.
here?
Oh,
Okay.
sorry. That's great.
All right.
Okay.
That's-
And
Yeah, we've got, well, the monthly check registers for June and July are attached, if anyone has any questions. You can email me if you want to review them, you can email me questions or if you have any right now. Otherwise, we'll march on.
Agenda.
First item is the second quarter financial and performance report, which is included in your packet. For the benefit of the new members, I will go ahead and just go through the format with you, so you're familiar. We do quarterly financials, 4 times a year, obviously. And right now, this quarter covers through costs through June 30th. We manage our costs and budget on a cash flow basis, so this is just a slice of time, as of June 30th. The first page of the financials are the revenues and expenditures for the Emeryville round shuttle. And the following pages are our other services that we provide and we receive revenue from to operate those services. The West Berkeley shuttle, the to-go paratransit. We have a small grant for some real-time signage at the BART station, and the bot study from the city of Emeryville. in this group, we primarily focus on the first page of the program budget. So with that, I'll go ahead and start into the revenue side here through June 30th. We have received 55% of our revenue to date. The P-bid revenue reflected here only includes the first installment. We did receive the second installment in July. It is not reflected here. The second installment, the good news you'll see in the third quarter, just because I'm so excited about it, we received an additional $100,000 than we had originally projected. We had projected a higher uncollectible amount when we did our budget, so that's good news. The expenditures were trending slightly below budget at 42%. However, this will increase the second half of the year with on the agenda later on here, the vehicle acquisitions and the increased service effective in July 1st. So we will notice that number will ramp up, and I believe that we still will remain within the $2.9 million expenditure budget.
Because we anticipated that.
Exactly. Performance, there's a performance report. Does anybody have any questions on the financials?
I do.
Okay.
So our budget projected a deficit just under $200,000. The city authorized supporting us through the next, sort of their fiscal year, which is half of this year for us and half of next year. But here you say we're not going to get any of their money in 2015, but
14, right.
15.
it says 15 here.
Oh,
That's true.
2015.
When in 2015? Because,
So-
you know, this is, we
So
are a cash business.
So
Yeah, okay, that's right.
what the city council approved was to set aside $400,000 of essentially general fund reserve money, so one-time only money, to be used during the city's 2-year budget cycle, which, as you said, it's a different fiscal year.
It's July 1.
It really is for your service year, 15, 16, and 16. And so, generally speaking, it's November, December, when the TMA brings forward more of a finalized budget, because remember when you do your preliminary budget in order to set the assessment fee, you only have about 4 months worth of information. So there's sometimes some slight differences in what your kind of more fully developed budget is, for the next year by November. And that's the basis of the city's funding agreement with the TMA that actually kind of leads to cutting the check. So even though the money is there in the assessment district and a special fund, there needs to be an actual, it's by resolution every year that the city actually cuts the check. And so when the council approved the use of this $400,000, what staff recommended was that when the TMA submits essentially its funding agreement request, funding authorization request based upon a more finalized budget, at that point, we would be giving to council the authorization to essentially pay the PBID funds out, but also to add in the general fund, reserve funds that are needed to kind of keep you whole based upon that budget.
Correct.
So
And that will be for 2015.
tell me when in 2015 that means.
I mean, it doesn't, quite frankly, it's for 2015, so I'm thinking we'll be cutting the check generally the first week of
So it's
January.
early.
Yeah,
Yeah.
exactly.
It's
But I
not
mean,
December.
Right after the new year.
yeah, it's not that we need the money in January, because obviously, you just need it to be whole by the end of the year, but, we wouldn't be holding it until
Okay.
we ran out of money.
So our final budget that we approved towards the end of this year for 2015 will show an anticipated revenue source of $200,000 from the city in 2015 calendar year.
Right.
So that's where we'll see it, and we actually put it on here just to show that if we know it's a revenue source that's been identified, but we show it as zero for 2015.
And also, just like now, there's extra money, so you have balance, exactly, there's 400,000 that the city said they'll give, but exactly how much of it in 15 and how much of it in 2016 is still a little bit of, there's not a definite number, but I would think that would be known for 2015 by December.
In our understanding, if there's a compelling reason in 2014, we'll be talking to you, but right now, we're anticipating
400,000 for 2 years, so if you use it all up to 14, 15, and there's nothing for 2016.
Okay, that was my question, thank you.
Okay, moving on to the performance reports attached. I apologize, this is very small, I'll try to get it in bigger font next time.
Well, I am sorry, I have one more question.
Sure.
Did 8 to go get renewed? What happened with 8 to go?
We're still under 8 to go for another year.
Meaning,
We're still operating the service. We're still
but a year,
Yeah,
meaning
what's
June
June
30?
30th of 15, yes.
Okay, so it's funded through June
June
30,
30th.
2015?
15, I'll double check that. I don't think we did it till 16, but I think it's 15. Yeah,
Okay.
we might have done it longer just because of the.
For you to reference the 8 to go is the supplemental services, the senior center on the same street. It's a very good sponsor.
Okay, so if you flip past the financial report, you will see the performance report there. And this performance report is provided by our operator. It gives us a kind of a snapshot of service complaints, accidents, incidents, passenger boardings, which is very important information, and our fleet performance below. Our fleet maintenance costs are listed there, as well as some assumptions for miles driven and miles per gallon and that sort of data, and days out for maintenance. So with this, I will report that ridership is up from last quarter 10%. This is primarily because the holidays are kind of ending the first quarter of the year. People are kind of ramping up, and the spring people tend to take public transportation more often because the weather's better, and so it explains the 10%. What's that?
Not this year.
From last quarter, you'll notice there's a line above where the current ridership counts are, and it shows the same passenger boardings from the same quarter of last year, and we're up 2% from last year, the same quarter. Moving down to the fleet performance, we've noticed that our 2 buses, and we've been very in coordination with MD on this, bus 114 and 115, those are our 2 Eldorado national buses that we purchased a few years back. They continue to have electrical problems, and the parts are difficult to get as they come from Canada most of the time. So we've had a significant number of days out of service. The costs are nominal, they're very small to get these repairs, but just to get the part, pulls these buses out of service many days. So I'm working with our maintenance department to continue to monitor that, and we'll have to identify some solution for
Are they always the same parts? Should we buy an inventory?
I can find out.
I mean, if the parts aren't expensive, but they take long, we should buy some.
Right.
That's what it's
It's good.
Right, exactly.
It's a good technical question for the maintenance.
Wheelchair lifts, not wheelchair lifts, it's wheelchair ramps, doors closing,
But if there's
things
a
that,
proactive approach
Right.
to just
Just-
Yeah, I
having
don't, having an inventory of key parts.
right.
Yeah,
we
that's
could
good.
pre-fund that, that's a good fund,
that's
I'm going to definitely recommend that to our operator.
that's a good point. Would you like them stored in your office?
We can figure the story, I mean,
I'm teasing.
buses are too valuable to leave idle, right? That's,
Absolutely.
Yeah, we just actually had a good conversation about that yesterday. Yeah, so, and that's the summary of our performance report. Does anybody have any questions?
so 1.6 million riders kind of is what we're,
We're still anticipating 1.6 million riders for this year, maybe just below. Last year we were like 1.558 or something, so we're getting near that 1.6 million ridership. But we're not seeing as much of an increasing trend as we did in 2012. We noticed a significant increase then. It's kind of tapered off, down a little bit, and now it's kind of ramping back up with the summer months.
So one of the things I think that was a bit of a back and forth in the scope of work is being able to develop a projection to get some sense of budget that would need to be incorporated into the PB renewal. And also, there will be a looking at the specific versus general benefit issue. So at some point, we're going to need to talk about how some of that work gets done, and
Right, we're working on that
Yeah.
already, Karen, so you can just coordinate with us and we'll share that with everybody. But we are working on our forecasted budget and we'll make some assumptions on growth, which we need to get vetted through, you guys for sure, particularly in light of what your knowledge is of occupancy rates or new occupancy rates.
But yeah, so what I would say is, I think it's been a mistake historically to say growth is all about new projects. That's a part of it. But the general trend towards commuting, I think, is far more material, and so we just need to make sure we're thinking all those
Holistically on
ways.
what the trends are. So we'll make some assumptions based on whether it's, trends worldwide or, and then as well as what we know from you on any kind of growth in the city, and then we'll need to get that.
I mean, the revenues are more about building.
Right.
But
But yeah, and certainly we have a situation where you could have a company of workers that aren't taking BART because where they live isn't accessible to BART, or they're not usually in their heads public transportation users. And then that company could leave, a new company could come in that same exact square footage, and all of a sudden it's young techies living in San Francisco and Oakland who are one living close to BART and are used to live in San Francisco and took uni every day. And so you could have from that same square footage, maybe 5 riders and end up with 40 riders. And I think that's the kind of thing that.
And I'm assuming that you guys will help with some
Yeah,
of those
yes.
assumptions, if that's their expertise.
But those of you else at the table who have experience, we certainly see the long-term trend to be higher densities of population in the same square footage and a higher percentage of transit users. Both of those mean that there should be growth, if not a single new building that came along.
I agree.
Isn't that, would you?
I agree with that. I think it also has to do with perception of the city and its safety and its vibrancy, that people are more willing to take the transportation as they see things changing around them. So their mindset may shift. So to your point, people can become riders that weren't there before.
And there's some national data you've all seen that the younger generations are not driving, they're actually not even getting driver's licenses for their cars.
I know.
That's it.
It's amazing.
No, it's a national, they're not even taking the driver's test, or they get it for ID purposes, but increasing, the 20-something techies are buying
They don't want
cars.
to waste their time behind the
Yeah,
wheel.
they're living in cities and they want to commute on transit. Yeah.
Moving on to our next item, the amendment number 5, review and consider approval of amendment number 5 to agreement with AC Transit for fuel. Back in 2004, the Emery go-round ETMA entered into an agreement with AC Transit to provide fueling and bus washing services. AC Transit's fueling facility is located right in the center of Emeryville. Very convenient for our service, and there are favorable fuel rates going through them. In kind, the Emeryville TMA has not imposed the assessment on the AC Transit.
That's a way of putting it.
Actually, I've done some math, and it actually kind of equals out. They do have a parcel in the city, and we have not enforced the assessment.
We don't enforce.
Yeah.
Yeah, so let me just say for my fellow board
Yes.
members, there's some government agencies that aren't exempt by letter of the law. The school district, AC Transit, those are the US Post
The
Office.
the post office.
Is a small, the school, none of those have tons of square footage, so there aren't huge bills being sent that aren't paid, but they're not immaterial either. Those people haven't paid. The city is the entity that could enforce payment.
Except for private property, it would be a lien on their property tax bill. With public agencies, there's no property.
Yeah, so
there's
the city doesn't have much teeth, and it's sort of,
a little leverage here.
so it's sort of, you hope that they pay, and if they don't. So we haven't chosen not to,
Right.
right? I want to make that
It's
clear.
just- Right.
That at least with AC Transit, there's some in-kind going around.
Yeah, at least we're
This
getting
does
some
have
friendliness
an
back.
impact,
you know.
Right. So the agreement expires at the end of this month, and we have been working with AC Transit to have an amendment issued. I will note that a few years ago, I think in 2012, we did modify the agreement to exclude bus washing services, which is too many issues with that. So now we are strictly just fueling only. As I mentioned, we do get a favorable rate with this, which keeps our fuel costs down.
Excuse me, how are the buses being washed?
We have our operator do it. So they have a maintenance facility and they have a bus washing facility. They,
So it goes to San Leandro?
when they do the maintenance on the buses, they just regularly keep them washed and clean. And they do a little on-site spot washing. I did make a request. This was sent to me by AC staff. I did make a request for them to increase the maximum number of buses to 24. That would allow for much flexibility in us increasing our fleet size. He doesn't see a problem with that, but is setting it up the ladder. I wanted to bring this to you to not delay the approval of this amendment on our side, to get this done before the end of the month.
So do I hear a motion to approve this?
Yeah, I'll move to approve the amendment of the 5 year.
I'll second it.
Thank you.
All in favor? Aye. Any opposition? Okay. What's next?
Okay, the next item is the review and consider approval of professional service agreement with Demano Designs for website development and maintenance services. This came up rather sudden. As we went to implement our new service changes, we discovered that our website kept crashing on us when we tried to upload the new schedules and route guides. We've had several Band-Aid methods over the year to repair our website to keep it in working order, but it is determined obsolete and is now crashing before us. So we quickly we've had a relationship with Demano Design on another agency we work with, and we asked for his quick services to see if he could repair the existing website to at least get our schedules and route guides updated. He did not. He was not able to do that. He did do some research, and it is obsolete. He has made a proposal for us to have a two-step process, which is to first get a temporary website up, which would include links to our route guides and schedules, so that we can provide that for our riders, a link to NextBus, and provide links to our monthly board meetings while a new site is developed. The new site development will occur as soon as the temporary site is up, and estimated target of completion would be late November, early December for launch of a new website. The estimate for the services through the end of the year, which include the development of both websites and maintenance through the end of the year, is $9,000.
So in general, it sounds like it's something necessary. It would be nice to know what technology base we're building and how that will support us in the future.
His proposal letter details, in here, the technology used in the infrastructure for the website. I apologize, I'm not as versed in these technology options, but it does list all of his kind of programs and structures that he's going to use to develop the website.
Yeah, like the site will be tested following browsers and all this kind of thing. Yeah, there is
Right.
some.
We'll be able to use it on phone apps. It'll be, interchangeable between websites and phone.
It says the developer maintain Adobe Muse and
Adobe Dreamweaver.
Yeah.
Right. Allowing us to make changes to the website for us to be able to post our own agendas monthly, and any changes in schedules. So sort of a content management system, and combined with an actual website that's, some edits he'll have to make and some edits we'll be able to make.
I have a question. I'm looking at the proposal, and it says the total cost, as you said, through the maintenance and redesign would be $9,000. But what about after that? Is there a monthly hosting fee?
Yes.
I don't see it. Maybe it's in here.
I will clarify, the monthly hosting fee we pay separately. We have a direct, Great Owen now actually carries the cost for a monthly hosting fee with InMotion Hosting. They're our web hoster, and they handle the site, the hosting and the domain name, the domain.
Yeah, which was actually being paid through our prior website management person, and then passing the cost through, so now we're just gonna pass it through.
And then separately, then the $9,000 gets us through December 31. I get the hosting. what about ongoing changes? Like now we want to put a new logo or something else on there.
Right, he will charge us an hourly rate of $75 per hour.
Okay,
And we'll go ahead and work with him after this is all done. We wanted to get this done quickly and to you,
Right.
on a prudent maintenance program and how,
Okay.
an estimated number of hours per month to
Thank you.
moving
We
forward
did
next year.
include the option to renew this for 2 additional years beyond December, if everything goes smoothly and we like the service and we'll, you know.
I will absolutely support this. I just want to say, this is going to sound real chamber nerdy here, but for the record, it would be nice in the future to maybe have, I don't make things too complicated for our lives, to business a little bit. We have a lot of chamber members here in the East Bay and in Emeryville who do this kind of work. I'm sure this church is very good. It's in San Francisco, but a lot of good folks here right in our own town, including Emeryville, who do exactly what they do. And
Right.
it'd be nice to maybe get some proposals someday. But having said that, I'll
Right.
say we should go ahead and support this one. And I'll even move it that we move I move that we support this item for the redoing the website.
Second.
Okay.
That's moved and seconded. All in favor? Aye. Any opposition? Bob, would you, I know this probably could be done more formally, but so were your request really asking Gray Bowen to, as a rule, make sure to consider Emeryville-based companies as options for vendors when appropriate? I mean, that's really what you're asking.
That's correct, if that's okay with you.
So I just wanted to say it, so you guys will do that as a matter of course.
We will.
As a more local, not San Francisco's that far
Right.
away, but you see that.
Right, no, we agree. In this particular case, from report, we got to a pinch. We didn't know we were gonna need this. We thought we were gonna
Right.
Band-Aid and have more time.
And yet, do it quickly. I
And,
understand.
right,
Thank you,
we
Jeff.
wanna get
Yes,
our
that's what I
grounds
intend.
up and going, so.
Okay,
Let me
thanks.
just ask, is there special consideration that you have as a transportation management company for your website providers? Is there an expertise we need to consider that they provide, or is it standard website capabilities that we're asking this vendor to provide?
They do offer, there are web developers with a focus in transit. I'm not sure if we would want to look into that. We could bid the cost of doing something like that. It's kind of a setup infrastructure for a transit website. Our current website, if it worked, it seemed to be effective and efficient.
But no special consideration to it as a transit website per se?
Right.
Okay. Just curious if you needed a special skill set in your vendors.
I don't think so. Because we develop a lot of our own schedules and our own graphics to depict kind of the route guides and whatnot. We would have to kind of set up a whole new infrastructure. Probably, I can imagine, would cost more money to do that. So we've always been able to provide the imagery and the route guides, all the information that we need to post there. And we also have NextBus, which is our transit kind of website. So we provide a link to that, and they manage that for us, the real-time data.
Yes, we do pay a lot for that.
Yeah.
So I think it would be whether or not the board wanted to have a much more robust website. But people have actually complimented on our website. So what we need is behind the scenes to be able to feed the information and post it, and that's what, get it updated mechanically. So that's what we're doing.
So for everyone's benefit, but Melinda's, would you just give us a 2-minute update on the NextBus thing, right? It was sort of, we put a Band-Aid on that.
We did. We had come to a crossroads. AT&T Wireless took down their network. We had to upgrade all of our equipment to 3G, I believe. We have all of these transponders that have to be installed in the buses that communicate with the satellites and whatnot throughout the city to report the real-time data for our buses. We were originally taken aback of the proposed cost to make that transition. But after evaluating our options for other real-time information systems and working with NextBus, we were able to negotiate the cost down quite significantly where it was affordable. And we also made the decision based on the fact that we were in the middle of a route guide change, schedule change. We had a lot of things going on, and our cut down deadline was July 1st that the network was going to go down. So timing wasn't such that we were comfortable making a decision to transfer to a new real-time information system. So the transponders have updated, upgraded, the system is working fine, and we've had no issues. The only issue that they're having is MV has to occasionally use buses of theirs as a backup for either new driver training that don't have certified air brake testing. Our buses are all need that requirement. They have buses provided for them to start driving on their routes, but they have to get that certification before they can drive our buses. Other reasons would be maintenance. If we have too many buses down, we need MV buses as backup. They stay in our lot, we use them. They do not have next bus transponders in them. I'm working with management right now with MV to have them installed on those buses, seeing as we're using them so regularly.
So are you, I guess my question was, are you thinking Next Bus may be a potential longer-term service provider for us now, or is that still an open question for the future?
I think it's an open question for the
It's
future.
evolving
It's
with
other,
competition is coming into the Bay Area, so I think we need to be open-minded over the next couple of years, whether or not it's a better option. But right now, it's working well.
Because that may be a time to consider the whole thing.
Mhm. Right.
Exactly.
So I have a question, do you kind of, because I find it, this is to the city web pages, do you kind of check the website every now and then? Because I know I was going to take the Emery around, and I wanted to know when the next bus was coming. And I got one of these messages saying I couldn't access next bus. And so I don't know, you know.
You may have to upload some type of JavaScript, or NextBus only works with certain other, you have to update either Adobe Muse or JavaScript or some type of back-end program.
Our computer's so old that.
And maybe
I did that too.
I
I did
had
that.
the same issues.
We could ask our
ourselves.
main provider to do, have on a regular
That would be-
schedule, make sure it's working, so that's a good point.
And one point to make too, to that, if you use Emery website to access NextBus, it's not linked right now because, like I said, it's part of the website issue.
Right.
We are directing people to go to nextbus.com and look up the Emery system that way. So
Yeah.
they've upgraded their system as well, which is part of the reason why it's not showing up on our webpage and the link isn't working properly. There's a whole manual on how we do that, and I need a technical person to be able to do that for me. I tried to go through and I couldn't read the first 6 words. I didn't understand what they meant. So that'll be part of
That's
David's.
There, we want to get this guy.
Yeah.
So there was a problem, because I did go to the Emery in fact.
Yeah.
And in fact, I needed.
Okay, anything else on that, or the next issue?
Okay, wait, when is it?
We voted and approved it.
Yes, thank you. Okay, so the next item is the review and consider approval of acquisition of 2 Starcraft All-Star 36-passenger vehicles and provide authorization for the executive director to sign all documents associated with this acquisition. The Starcraft All-Star, I apologize, didn't include the layout of the bus. These are the same buses we've acquired over the past 2 years, the same model. They've been working for us. They are considerably affordable for our agency and our budget. And I will note that our 2014 budget only authorized the acquisition of 1 vehicle this year. However, since the acquisition's been pushed so far out, I can afford to buy 2 now with our budget. So I'm requesting the purchase of 2 at this time. Getting these all done at one time is better. Having the branding done and going through this whole process with the bidding, with these bus providers, we're kind of there, and I think we should buy 2.
And you need them.
And we need them.
And what will be done with, is this an addition to the fleet or a replacement?
This is a conversation that we have regularly. We can call them replacements, but technically, I'm not retiring any, we're not gonna retire any buses unless there's a costly repair on them. We're using them kind of as backup. We pull them off the front line, we don't use them as frequently, but since we've had to use MV buses so frequently, our maintenance providers suggesting that we keep them on our fleet until, at which time we come across some major repair, or major
It's
costly.
not to have them.
Exactly.
Yeah, we're using for better. It's helping to provide better redundancy for all the reasons she was reporting earlier. But do report to them about the lease term years.
Right, so one other consideration to make.
Before you go, so sticking with what they are for and what they'll do. So the ones that are older, you're holding in reserve, but if we had the budget to pay for the maintenance and the gas and the driver, is there any reason we couldn't increase the service using those buses?
Well,
Or
we have
one
to be
of
able
them.
to afford to replace them if necessary, once we increase the service.
Right, but I'm just,
They're there as we go.
is there any reason that isn't possible?
We would have to look at it. I would have just.
Yeah,
In-
we're
in
doing
what way?
that,
I
we're
mean,
doing that
as
now,
if they
we are
were.
making the purchases as we think we need them. So if we're able to use our own buses prudently, you know, we don't spend the extra money, we don't need to. But right now, we keep updating our fleet plan. And as we know, our buses have reached their useful life, and the operator has told us that, you shouldn't be running these daily, but they can be used as temporary. My worry is if we increase the service and use them beyond what we've budgeted, and, we then can't sustain that, that would be troublesome. So right now, we're sticking to the plan of the amount of service we've told you, we think we need to keep up with the ridership, and we're trying to do the fleet plan to match it. And Ronnie's, what she didn't tell you, she spent a lot of hours with our provider and their maintenance staff. One, making sure we're buying the right buses, the best buses for the system we're providing, based on all kinds of reasons. And then making sure negotiating with the provider. I mean, there's a lot that goes behind this. And in the meantime, to the extent we can keep some of those buses that aren't really appropriate to depend on a daily basis, but there as backup, I think is a great thing.
So do you also use, and listening to Jeff's point, is that I think that there have been some times in the future when let's say you had a new tenant in a building that all of a sudden there was a spike in ridership, or maybe, I don't know, what Target's open until midnight, or like for back to school or for the Christmas rush where you may have a spike in ridership. Are those buses that could be used to kind of handle the supplemental kind of ridership that might be happening, let's say seasonally, even though you wouldn't want them kind of
Right.
programmed in daily?
Right,
Right.
and that's exactly the purpose of having these older buses kind of in the weeks waiting if we need them. And I will reiterate, we've been using MV buses quite regularly for maintenance rotation. So.
Which we pay for.
We don't pay for it. They have not charged us
Let's
for that.
use more.
They can by contract, they have not done that
They've
because
been
they.
very helpful,
Right.
because Ronnie rides it.
So what are the ages of the buses you're proposing to put out to pasture? So
They're 10 years old now, so they've reached
That's
their
our
life
industry
expectancy.
standard.
that's old for them.
That's what.
And we have, I think 4 individual buses, so we could potentially be facing high maintenance
Yeah, that's
costs, and again, they go down more frequently, so we do have.
It's not
more
cost
maintenance.
benefit to be running them,
Right.
really, and that's what causes us to add the buses.
In fact, there's a risk in running them, is what you're saying, not not a cost benefit.
Right.
So you were going to speak about,
The term,
So the term, we are recommending a 27-month term. That would keep us within the current PBID funding. Basically, the term would end December 31st, 2016, which is the end of our funding stream. Which is basically kind of squish the payments together a little bit closer, thereby would increase the budget line item for bus acquisition for 2015. We budgeted $510,000, I believe, on our preliminary budget. With these 2 acquisitions and the planned additional acquisitions for 2015, it would push us up to about $565,000.
when we do our final proposed budget, you'll see
We'll
that line
Take that
item.
into consideration.
And our thinking behind this is, next year, we're in this position for having to do potentially retiring buses and adding for service as planned. We'll have an idea of where the PBID renewal process is going, and we can make a decision at that time. But traditionally, we've done a 3-year term lease.
Right, for lease.
And then we basically own the buses. The terms are, you owe $1, and then they're yours, and then for 7 years, if they last the full 10 years, we don't have those lease payments. We're suggesting as a fiscally responsible thing right now, because we only have a known funding source through 2016, that we just reduced those terms right now for these 2 buses only. And it has a net effect, because we're buying them so late in the year, this year. It has a net effect of only about 55,000, is that what you said? Something like that.
Next year.
To our anticipated budget that we already gave you. It's a lot of mumbo jumbo, but the lady here who watches your money to the penny wants to make sure you're aware of that.
Right. And also I wanted to note too, I did look at different buses. I also did look at different financing options. The option proposed in here it was the most favorable. We looked at a loan. At the end of the day, just to give you a rough estimate, the payments, if you run out the term and the payment amount, would have been about $155 with the current proposal. On the loan that was proposed to us, it was about $170,000, so a considerable amount more.
I guess the only other thing I'd point out is, yes, we're going to a shorter lease term, but as an agency, your capital assets are greater because you own more of the bus. So it is offset by the fact that your capital assets are worth more at the end of 2016. So that's the part where all the things that we considered and thought that would be the prudent route this year for our bus purchases.
So you said the total payments over the term are about $155,000, and it cost us $146,000 to pay cash for them.
Exactly.
So pretty nominal financing charges, a short period of time.
Right.
Do I hear a motion?
I just have one more question. You're saying a 510K budget versus a 565 cost. Where does that extra 55,000 come from in the overall budget? Is there another project that could?
We have not actually approved the 2015 budget yet. We did a preliminary, which is basically, the purpose of that is to set the PBID levy for the next year. So we'll revisit that, and we also we're monitoring our maintenance costs. They're actually running lower than we predicted over the last few years. So we're monitoring that, and
So I think what will happen is, we'll show you what you saw earlier, what the city saw, which was what the PBID assessment that was approved, I think 2.5% for next year. So you'll see what we thought was gonna happen then, and what we're alerting you to is we already know that we probably need $55,000 more for this one line item. It's possible that we'll be able to absorb it within. If not, we have a couple options, which is we do have the funding source from the city available to us, and we have a contingency fund that we have. So we'll look at all those ways to tell you whether our bottom line is actually increased by this. You know, we'll probably have some wiggle room on other items as well. And we actually feel that $55,000 in a $3 million budget is not, we can,
Quite natural.
yeah, it's not
Right.
that
And
much.
this could potentially offset maintenance costs too.
Exactly.
Exactly.
right, they're not as costly
Exactly.
maintenance repairs.
I would move to approve that.
Thank you.
Second?
I'll second.
Okay, all in favor? Aye. Any opposed? No. Or
Unless there's any.
Yeah.
So, are there any issues, questions, comments from board members?
Jeff, if I could just real quick, I did put on the table a couple things I wanted to bring to people's attention. First is our brand new chamber directory just got published. This is literally just delivered on Tuesday. Please help yourself and take one. If you want extras to take back to the office, I have 1,500 copies. But please take one with you. This literally just came in. And I did put a few flyers out on the table. On Thursday, September 18th, our annual meeting and installation of officers. We have a great speaker, Kishore John, who's the director of the governor's office in economic development, is the speaker this year. There'll be a DoubleTree Hotel in Berkeley Marina. Take a flyer with you if you want. As a reminder, it's on our website, of course. And tonight is our business networking mixer this evening, 5:30, 7:30. You're all invited. It's at Terry Paulding's on 62nd Street. He's a caterer. The food's really good. It's free and open to everybody. We prefer you RSVP, but if you don't, come on over. It's a lot of fun. Please, yeah, take the flyer with you, like as a reminder. Thank you, Jeff. That's all.
You
It
talk
is. The
fast
food is
with
great.
Ronnie.
Her kitchen was,
impressed.
her kitchen was featured on one of the very earliest Top Chef.
Yeah, that,
Really?
when Pixar did Ratatouille, they trained their animators over there on how to chop stuff up. She hosted that. She did a Clint Eastwood movie. It was not that successful, with Matt Damon, something.
But the success, or lack thereof, was not a result of the kitchen.
Well, correct. And the whole scene was shot there. I think anyway, so she's
all the time.
and her food is really good. It's free. Please come over and take a bite with you as a reminder. Thank you, Jeff.
Any other? Okay, meeting adjourned. Our next meeting is scheduled for September 18th, 9 a.m.